It was a late autumn evening in Vermont, the kind of evening where the world outside my window looked quiet, almost suspended in a soft gray stillness. My name is Eleanor, and I am 71 years old. I have lived in the same house for nearly 4 decades, a house my late husband and I bought together when we were young and hopeful. He passed away 11 years ago, and since then, the silence within these walls has been my companion, sometimes comforting, sometimes suffocating. For many years after his death, I filled the quiet with routines. I would rise with the sun, brew my coffee, and watch the light shift across the worn wooden floors. I cooked small meals, I tended to the garden, and I occasionally spoke with neighbors at the grocery store. Outwardly, it looked like life. Inwardly, I was simply existing. One evening, something stirred in me that I hadn't felt in years. I sat in front of the mirror, brushing my thinning hair, and I saw not just an old woman staring back, but the echoes of who I once was. A younger Eleanor who had laughed easily, who had painted late into the night, who had traveled with nothing but a small suitcase and big dreams. I felt tears sting my eyes, not because of regret, but because I had forgotten that part of me still lived somewhere inside. I remembered a night, years ago, when my husband had walked in on me as I stood by the bedroom window in nothing but a robe, painting the moonlight as it spilled across the lake. He had smiled, kissed my shoulder, and told me I looked like I belonged in that very moment, unapologetically myself. That memory had haunted me for years, not because it was painful, but because it reminded me of the freedom and vitality I had lost when grief took over. On this autumn evening, as the clock ticked softly in the background, I did something I hadn't done in decades. I pulled out a blank canvas. At first, my hand trembled. The brush felt unfamiliar, almost foreign. But the moment I dipped it into the paint, a wave of something electric surged through me. The first stroke was shaky, but then another followed, and another, until my entire body was leaning into the movement. Hours passed without me realizing it. That night changed something. It was as though I had been asleep for years, and suddenly I was awake. Over the following weeks, painting became my anchor. I painted the morning light as it poured into my kitchen, the shadows of leaves swaying outside my bedroom window, the worn wrinkles of my own hands holding a teacup. Each brushstroke felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. But the transformation didn't stop there. My daughter, who often worried about me living alone, noticed the change in my voice when I called her. "You sound lighter," she said. She was right. For the first time in years, my words carried a spark. I began taking long walks through the town, noticing things I had once overlooked. The way the maple trees glowed at sunset, the way strangers smiled when our eyes met. One afternoon, I stopped at a local art supply store, and the young clerk asked if I was an artist. I almost laughed, but then I heard myself say, "Yes. Yes, I suppose I am." It wasn't about whether my work was good or bad. It was about claiming something that was mine. The solitude of widowhood no longer felt like a prison. Instead, it became a space where I could create, reflect, and rediscover. I filled journals with thoughts I had never dared to write down before, about loss, about longing, about the strange beauty of aging. One evening, I sat at the very same window where that old memory had lived for so long. The moonlight spilled across the floor just as it had that night with my husband. I realized then that I was no longer haunted by the past. Instead, I was carrying it with me, allowing it to shape me but not confine me. The greatest lesson I learned in this unexpected chapter of my life was that renewal does not belong only to the young. At 71, I discovered that change was not only possible, but necessary. Life will strip us of many things, youth, partners, routines, but as long as we breathe, we carry within us the ability to begin again. I share this story not because it is extraordinary, but because it is ordinary. Countless people my age believe their time for joy, for rediscovery, for passion has passed. But I am living proof that it has not. That night when I picked up the brush again, I stepped into a future I never thought I'd have. If you are listening to this, perhaps you too have felt that hollow silence in your life. Perhaps you too wonder if it is too late. I am here to tell you, it is never too late. The canvas is still blank, waiting for your hand to give it color. And sometimes, the moment you least expect will become the very one that changes everything.